welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Dave Emery. I'm a senior financial planner with Planning Capital Management. My co-host today is Jeffrey Watkinson of Watkinson's Capital Advisor. How's it going there, Jeff?
Doing well, Dave. How about yourself?
Doing real well. So we got a great show here today. But before we get to our guest, just thought we'd chat a little bit about what are your clients seeing these days? What's on mind with some of the people you're talking to?
Well, Dave, we're in the municipal bond business, and I'm sure your clients and our clients are both talking about inflation year over year, and they're always with inflation comes the Federal Reserve, higher interest rates, how many rate hikes. Is it a good time to buy bonds now? Should I wait? Tell me about your crystal ball, Jeff. That's a lot. That's what's on everybody's mind, right? You too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned municipal bonds. I know that's an area that's your business. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, recently, because municipal bonds. If investors in one of the big attributes is they don't pay tax on the interest they earn. So how's that been these days with regards to comparing to bonds that you do pay taxes on?
That's a great question. Simply put, municipal bonds, like just about every other fixed income asset class, say except for floating rate, is down pretty big this year because the Federal Reserve has started to raise interest rates.
Right.
They've telegraphed and told us that they're going to continue to raise interest rates, and they're serious about combating inflation. So year to date, municipal bonds, the index is down 8-9%, which is enormous.
Right.
People buy munis for predictable income, tax-free income, and the return of their principal. And why has this happened? Well, a lot of it is due to headline risk. The municipal bond market is mostly controlled by individual investors, either through mutual funds and ETFs, or individuals actually owning the bonds directly.
Right.
And last year, remember when the 10-year Treasury was at 150 or lower, there were 40 straight weeks of people buying municipal bond funds. That measured demand. So $2 billion a week was the average buying at sky high prices, buying high. Now in January, when Fed Chairman Powell said, hey, we're going to start raising rates to combat inflation, mom and pop read the newspaper, they watch CNBC and said, oh my gosh, interest rates are going up. I got to sell.
Right.
So now there were 16 straight weeks of selling to the tune of $3 billion a week. And that selling slowed down the last week or two. But the result is prices are down.
Right.
Yields are up. So now they're selling low.
Right.
So instead of buying low, selling high, they're buying high, selling low.
That doesn't sound good.
No, not at all.
Now, to your point, typically bonds have been kind of like a vehicle to balance other portfolios that invest in stocks. They've kind of been a diversifier, and just like you said, so far this year, the market has been down, and it's like it's kind of like a double whammy. I mean. There doesn't seem to be any place to hide. One of the questions that we've heard is clients saying, "Well, what about I bonds? Which is inflation adjusted bonds? Are you hearing anything about that? You get any questions about that?"
Yeah, my business partner is very interested in I bonds. I had some questions about those today at an exposition. If you buy I bonds, I think the max is 10 grand. That's not really my core business, but I think you can buy $10,000 worth of I bonds. Buy them. Buy them in addition to other stuff. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just for the viewers, I mean, I bonds are inflation adjusted bonds backed up by I guess the Treasury. And I guess the way to buy them is I just went online. You go to treasurydirect.gov, and I think that's at least one of the areas you can go and buy them. You may be able to buy them other places too. But yeah, to your point, I mean, you can only buy $10,000 of them per year, but they adjust with inflation. So yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah, they're a terrific buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year we've seen yields. I mean, yields. I looked at bonds yesterday that were trading at a 1% yield on December 27th, December 28th, January 2nd. The same bond is yielding 3.5% right now, tax free.
Wow.
That's the value out there. It's tremendous. And it's very exciting. I mean, we've been waiting for rates to rise for the last 10, 12 years, and now it's happening.
Yeah.
It's awesome. People are picking up the phone, calling us.
Yeah. So just to kind of piggyback off of that. So, when it's paying 3% tax free, I mean, if you're in the high income tax bracket, that's that's a nice savings. You're not paying tax on that. The highest income tax bracket is federal is like 35 or 39%, something like that. So that's
37% plus the state tax plus
right,
local tax.
Right.
California, it's half.
That's crazy.
A 3.5% bond for California resident. That's a 7%
taxable yield. Wow, tax equivalent. Yeah. Interesting. So, I guess one of the other big things that I'm hearing on people's minds is, definitely inflation. We talked about that and talked about the market volatility, but then the whole supply chain issue. I mean, that's still happening. And, I've heard some of the people on the news say that some of the economists I've listened to say that supply chain issue is a component of inflation. When they say about transitory, that just being able not to get products in here, that a piece of that is a result is reflective in inflation. But yeah, that's definitely areas that are on people's minds. The whole, going into stores and they have, bare shelves on some items. So that's certainly impacting things along with inflation.
Absolutely.
So anything else you're hearing from your clients?
They're just concerned. They're concerned about. Looks like we have a question here from one of the listeners.
So you ready to get a question asked of you here?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So Sam Wilton of Philadelphia asks, "Are banknotes a safe investment?"
Interesting. What a banknote is, a bank will lend money, to someone or a business. It could be, for example, a mortgage, and they might need to lessen up their book. Why would anyone want to buy a banknote? Is a contract between two parties. The bank will transfer the note to a new lender, and they're responsible for collecting the interest. And what is enticing about a banknote is usually banks sell them at a discount. Hey, I can buy this note at 95 cents on the dollar, 90 cents on the dollar. And that's very enticing. However, say you borrow a mortgage from somebody and now you own that note. What if that house goes down in value? What if there's a lot of repairs to that house? What if the owner of the house defaults on the note? Now you own a house that's in disrepair in a horrible neighborhood. If you're not in that business of rehabbing houses, it may not be a great fit for you. This is not really my business. Is it a safe investment? It's not as safe as owning a municipal bond. That's all I'm going to say about that.
So buyer beware, huh? So, all right. Well, hey, thanks for answering that. And here's how you can send in your questions to Money Matters TV.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, TV.com.
Well, great, and welcome back to Money Matters TV. We have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Daniela Galdi. Welcome, Daniela. Thanks for coming to the show.
Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit. So, give us a little overview of, maybe what you do, in particular, what interested you in on-air hosting and interviewing?
Sure, absolutely. I have a background in entertainment and media, both producing it as well as appearing live as an on-air talent. So my story happens in terms of my entire life. I've been a performer, and at about, midway through a few years into my career, I started to talk to myself about, what's the next step to build in this entertainment and media field? And one of those things was doing product sales online. And so I was able to get the training that I needed and start to make the connections that I needed. And I was able to go on QVC as Lori Grenier's guest host, which is just, it was amazing. It was just one of the things that I've done on air, but it's definitely a highlight for me. And what was so amazing about it is, the other end, I have several brands, and one of the brands is a creative agency and development company called Vivesta Agency. And my love for helping people to get their message out there really ties in. And so the opportunity with Lori Grenier, working directly with her and her team, was so great because I was able to support both these brands that she works with, as well as, get their messages out and do what I love, which is, supporting people and being in the entertainment and media field.
Wow, that's something else.
Thank you.
Very cool. Hey, Daniela, how are you?
Hey, Jeff. I'm great. How are you?
Welcome aboard. Can you tell us how you got? Bring us back. Tell us how you got started in media, and that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it happened at a time where I feel this is a common thread with people that I speak with. It happened at a time where I was burnt out. I actually, my background, as I mentioned, is performing arts, and I've been a dancer all my life. And that took me in the direction of ultimately teaching dance and Pilates and fitness, where in my 20s, when all of my friends were vacationing places, I was starting a Pilates studio in Philadelphia in my very early 20s. So a few years into that, it was great experience. It was actually at the peak of my business, and I was just very burnt out from not doing what I wanted to do, and really stepped back and reevaluated what my day-to-day looked like and how I was spending my time. So that personal reflection led me to recognize the strengths and desires that I wanted to move forward with. And one of those things that I took was that love, still that passion for being in the entertainment industry, as well as, talking with all of the new people I had met over these past years of having my business, as well as going to different small business conferences and different types of women's organizations, particularly, and branding workshops, things like that. And just that whole development and meeting people, I really wanted to dive deeper into being able to be on air with them, jump into this whole new world of not just networks, but also streaming and also social networks. And I just decided, I loved hearing from people. I loved helping them get their message out and tell their story. And that, it made sense to go into it. I was able to tie my two loves, people and entertainment, together. And, I started to do all my training and go from there.
Wow. So maybe you can elaborate what is required to land the local and national network jobs. I mean, it seems like it's a very competitive business. And what kind of advice could you give there?
Absolutely. I love this question because the answer is a really it depends type of answer. It
Sure.
depends what area you want to go in because we have so much digital media at our fingertips. We are sweet.
Mhm.
It's so accessible to us, right? Even this show, which is incredible. I love the conversation, by the way, you two are having before this. But, at a local level, get connected with other people who are doing their own productions, right?
Hmm.
Reach out to people who are producing their podcasts, who have maybe even just started out. They're going to be looking to people to connect with. And if you can relate on that same level of, hey, I am just starting out with my media career and I'd like to see where we could collaborate. I mean, reaching out to people is how, honestly, it's how I started to get myself in the product sales and brand repping with QVC because I reached out to friends. I reached out to friends of friends who were also involved in it. And so reach out. And on a local level, that is a great way to just start to build your community in that sense. In another sense, in the national level, I mean, there's different ways. It depends if there's a casting company associated or if the company does have casting associated with their projects.
Hmm.
And you're going to need the necessary materials to really move forward with that, which, an electronic press kit or digital media kit, however you want to reference it, that's going to be key. Having a reel, making these materials that are going to support you, as well as both for local and national. Anything you want to do is really start to get yourself practicing and making videos specifically, right?
Hmm.
We can do it. And I always suggest to people, you don't have to show anybody at first. You can make a gazillion videos on
Right.
your cell phone. Don't show anybody yet, but get yourself in that flow of speaking with people, with yourself. Pretend there's someone with you, talk on subjects that you really love. And those materials are going to be key in getting yourself, in the door with opportunities.
Interesting.
So essentially what you're saying is just do it, start doing it,
Yes.
make mistakes as you go. But the first step is you just start making your own videos, start doing it and learn from there.
Absolutely. And there's that, and yes, in a very simple place, that is definitely a great place to start because then from there, you'll be able to have an idea of how you present yourself, right? Because we present ourselves differently. I tell everybody all the time, I performed in front of stadiums of people in
Hmm.
ginormous theaters.
Stadiums?
Stadiums, yes. Yeah,
Wow.
How big of a stadium?
when the Spectrum was still here, I was
Yeah.
doing
Oh,
things in the
cool.
Spectrum. So, but as soon as I went into my media training, it was as though I had never had a conversation with anybody
Hmm.
ever in life, let alone performed in front of people and even sang in front of people. So just to get used to yourself doing it. And then from there, there's a technique and everything, right? There's training for everything. So really make sure that you can, I do media training with people, but also reach out to people. I did training in New York. There's people in Philadelphia. I worked with public relations professionals. I also did some improvisation classes, all these things to help me to get those skills of like active listening and transitioning and all of that.
Absolutely. So you're working with people, helping them deal with the media, right? Is that one of the benefits that one of the things you bring to your clients? I mean, here's how we're going to deal with the media and
Yeah,
control the conversation and
absolutely. So with that, it depends again what people need. So building the materials with them, making sure that they're supported in. I'm very big on. I have actually a mental health organization as well, and so I'm very big on the EQ part of things. Right. I want people to be able to manage their own emotions so that when
what's EQ is emotional quotient. Is that
yes,
okay?
yes. So working with how to manage your emotions
Hmm.
throughout situations in a gist, right? So I help people in every aspect of that. So we're going to build the materials you need. I'm going to help you to get the training you need, but I'm also going to help you work through any types of like doubts, fears, things like that. So it's how you present yourself in the media, but then also we can do things so that you're more a person is more aware of like what's needed, like as simple as a press release. But then now it's not that simple anymore. People want to see and hear you, and they want to recognize what your brand is and what value you're going to get to them. So helping people to deliver that as well.
Are there specific industries or sectors that you focus on or have worked with? I mean, I'm obviously thinking of like CEOs and athletes and I don't know, politicians. I mean, are these the types of people that could use the training that you provide?
Absolutely. So everybody can use it. I mean, I still train for myself. And so I've worked with different people, specifically in media and broadcasting, right? So other QVC hosts, anchors on television, I've done that as well. I specifically have a big community in health and wellness. So I tend to meet with a lot of people through that who want to, like right now, I'm a host with a therapy practice, and I get it. And working with therapists on air is actually really great because they're trained to do all these things, like listen and respond accordingly, and so I get a big influx with health and wellness. But I've worked with CEOs of financial companies. I've worked with them in their marketing videos and prepping their teams with how to get what they do out. I mean, for example, just listening to what the two of you do and talking about the bonds in the beginning, I mean, that's stuff that I'm like, well, thank goodness they have this show, because people are out there who want to get more involved in this, right? So yeah, so it's a big influx all over, but I have to say I get most of my people from health and wellness at the moment.
Very cool.
So what advice can you give for product and brand representation on digital media?
Yes.
So switch gears a little bit here, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing I can tell people for anything they're doing is, be your authentic self with it, right? So, and that's just also if you're new to starting to make the videos to use for marketing, to use in social media, to use for branding, to use for your product sales, just start with very simply, what do you love about it? Right. And that's going to be the easiest way to get it out to people, because when you share things about yourself and add that personal, authentic self, there's going to be others that relate and that connect, and then connect it to their life as well. And so that making that personal connection is really a key value. And it makes the person who is trying to sell these items, it makes your life easier too, because you're like, oh, well, this is what I do with it anyway. There's a reason you love it, or there's a reason you want to represent it. If you're working for a company, and you just have to share what those loves are with people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I reflect on some of the commercials that I've seen, and when you have somebody that's their authentic self as opposed to not, I mean, you definitely have a connection there. So interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why people don't do, advertisers don't do more of that. So.
It's a good question. And I do see that there's a lot of people with brands who are starting to find that direction. And again, I would like to think that that's the direction we're all going, so that we can kind of bring it and make sure that everyone is feeling that support from whatever product you have. But again, there's so many, as you two know, there's so many moving parts that sometimes there might be a disconnect that happens.
I got a question. No, don't worry about it. Relax. How's the industry evolving? I mean, obviously we've seen huge shifts post-pandemic. Can you give us a little before, during, after? How's it evolving over the last 3 to 5 years would be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, so definitely post-pandemic, I mean, we're going to see the fact that everybody can get on here, right? Everyone can make a video. Everyone can speak their message. Everyone can support their brand, their product, and everyone is much more comfortable doing so, right? So my hope is that people continue to stick with that flow. I'm big on taking breaks when you need a break, but once you can get back into that flow of things, I mean, that is where that the value comes in the fact that if we have to have any silver lining with this pandemic, in terms of media, people are much more comfortable popping on a camera and talking to people and sharing what they have to share, which is a beautiful thing. In terms of more of like a network and just what you might see a little bit more mainstream, there's something called like a fourth wall, right? So one of the important things is that when you are hosting or specifically hosting something or sharing your own message, I bring back the authentic self. You're not an actor, so you are a host. You are showing up as yourself, which is really beautiful. So with that said, when you show up as yourself, that is something that is a little bit different now within mainstream, where you're going to see anchors who are maybe like breaking that fourth wall and adding in some comic relief or adding in a personal account or a personal opinion, right? So there's a lot more opinion happening all throughout, as opposed to just delivering news or delivering a product.
Interesting. So we're kind of coming down here toward the end of the show, but is there one last couple of points you wanted to leave with our audience regarding what you do or what they might think about?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely think about sitting and recognizing all of the things and all of the materials and all of this magic that you do have behind you, right? So maybe you attended and hosted a workshop, right? These are all different ways that will help to prepare you to do any type of work in the media or to put yourself out there in the media. So take a second and just think about all the things. Maybe you've just gotten up in front of your coworkers and you said a speech, right? These are all different things that are going to help us to find that we really are capable of putting ourselves out there and sharing our messages with people.
Well, that sounds great. Jeff, do you have any other last questions or comments?
Yeah, I think this is for the whole audience out there. I was watching the George Carlin documentary on HBO the other night, American Dream, and it took him a long time to find his authentic self, to really reject his success and go a complete 180. I guess this is the final question, but what is your perspective on overcoming rejection and hitting walls?
Absolutely. That's a very loaded question. But so one of the biggest things is have a support system, right? And that means from personal to professional. So have your friends, have your therapists, have your coaches, have your media training, have your, any support system you can build is going to be a huge help in the whole idea of putting yourself out there, right? Being constantly publicized with media. So that is going to be huge. And the other thing is, this is a personal account. I make a list of all the things I'm proud of, and I try to wake up and do it at least one thing. So, refer back to those lists so that we keep your self-esteem boosted and go towards the people that understand you. You're going to hit the people who don't, who maybe have a different direction and vision, and that's okay, because that's only going to bring us to new opportunities that are going to be so much more in alignment with your growth and growing more opportunities for yourself.
That sounds great, Danielle. I really appreciate it, and really great show. So thanks for joining us. So our next week's guest is Dr. Maureen Mulvihill, President and CEO of Actuated Medical. Make sure to tune in for that. And remember, at Money Matters TV, your money matters.